All right, welcome in everyone. You're listening to Bulls Central. I am joined by a very special guest today, a return guest actually. He's been very generous enough to meet with me for a second time, and he does it for you guys, for Bulls fans, because we do love hearing from our media personalities. He's had a very illustrious career in the field of broadcasting, a Chicagoland Hall of Famer, and our very own Bulls radio play-by-play announcer, Chuck Swirsky. Chuck, appreciate you taking the time to come on, and it's great to have you back.
Great. Thank you so much.
Now, Chuck, the last time we met when I had you on, this was shortly after free agency had concluded. We had recently learned that Lonzo Ball, DeMar DeRozan, Alex Caruso would be joining this team. This was before we learned of the signing trade that would come from Larry Markkinen that brought us Derrick Jones Jr. I know you in particular, you were very high on Alex Caruso in that signing, and rightfully so. He's shown to be such a valuable asset for the Bulls so far this season, but has there been a particular newcomer for you that this Bulls team has brought on that has surprised you the most now that we're nearly halfway through the season?
Surprised me the most. Well, I'm surprised how things have come together so quickly with all the different components, with all the different egos, with all the different teams that clubs have, nurtured along the way with, Caruso coming in from the G League out of Texas A&M and undrafted. Then he's with the Lakers and becomes a really key component of what's going on in LA. And then he signs a free agent deal with the Bulls. And then you got DeMar DeRozan, who one day will have his jersey retired in Toronto, who in my opinion is a Hall of Fame player who gets traded on the cusp of the Raptors knocking on the door. He gets traded for Kawhi. And then the Raptors go to the finals, and not only go to the finals, they win the finals. And DeMar is in San Antonio. And then as a free agent, he's looking around, and the Bulls say, "We want you. We need you." And all of a sudden, then you have Zach Lavine, who's never been in an NBA playoff game. Oh. And he's looking around, and all of a sudden, he's looking at talent that he's never had before. Mm-hmm. So all these parts, it's been awesome. It really has been.
Now, be honest, has this Bulls team, I mean, obviously, had they've surprised you as a whole? Like, we're all Bulls fans, so we're obviously, we hold some semblances of biases in our view of the team. And, I knew this team was going to be better than the national media was giving them credit for, but I did not expect we would be sitting here early January and seeing the Bulls at the top of the Eastern Conference with a 25-10 record. Is this what you expected?
Well, honestly, I didn't know what to expect. And I'm being very transparent here.
Yeah,
I didn't know, okay, how is, Zach and DeMar, how long will it take for them to get on the same page regarding, it's one thing to compete against each other as Zach has done over the years against DeMar in Toronto and San Antonio, vice versa. And it's, but when players are brought together in a training camp, and then all of a sudden injuries start happening and COVID starts happening, and these guys are in and out of the lineup, it's hard to mesh, especially when you're going up against, teams in front of you who have had the same core for a number of years, whether it's Milwaukee, Brooklyn, Philadelphia, Atlanta. I mean, these teams have been together for a while. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden now Arturas puts together this person and that person and this person, and boom. And then all of a sudden COVID hits and you're right back almost to square one. Because now, when you're out of the lineup for 2.5 weeks before the new NBA guidelines came into play a few days ago, you're saying, wow, so we don't get him back for 2 weeks. Well, next man up. And that's why I'll tell you a glue guy that I really appreciate his play. And that's a guy by the name of Javonte Green.
Yeah.
Now, Javonte Green is not a household name. But I'll tell you what he brings to this club. I have never seen him take one possession off. And he hustles back on defense, transition D. He runs the floor on offense. He doesn't get plays called for him. And he doesn't complain. He is an egoless player with confidence. And I love players who get it. I mean, you've got DeRozan, you've got Lavine, you got Vooch, okay? You got Lonzo Ball. Javonte Green knows exactly why he is on the floor. And it's players like Javonte Green. It's a guy like Matt Thomas, okay? When all these players were going down and he's going down, then he comes back and they said, Matt, you know what? I need 25 to 30 minutes from you tonight. I don't even know the last time he played 25 or 30 minutes, probably with the Raptors. Anyway, he comes in, nails 3 balls, and you're thinking to yourself, wow. And then the next night, it's a different player. So I really appreciated guys like Tyler Cook, who unfortunately went down with an ankle injury. You get Derek Jones Jr. shooting a career high in threes, and he's playing his tail off baseline to baseline. I mean, that's what I love about this team.
I mean, the team has been playing incredibly well. They've exceeded our expectations anyway. All that being said, though, for me personally, I think the Bulls, for them to truly be competitive in the Eastern Conference, at least when it comes to the playoffs, right, they have to get some added front court depth, assuming Patrick Williams does in fact remain out for the rest of the season. And really because you're going to struggle against going against guys like Giannis, who we haven't even seen yet, Embiid, who's beat us twice, Kevin Durant, we beat twice, but again, the playoffs are a different animal, in my opinion. If you have a limited front court depth, do you think that the Bulls, as good as they have been, that they should make some kind of move for another big man, or something along those lines, someone who specializes at the 4? Or do you think the approach should be, don't try and fix what isn't broke? And if they do make a move, what do you think would be some good options for the Bulls?
Well, the only thing is this. You've got to be very careful because the chemistry on this team is really, really good.
Yeah.
And, I have the utmost respect for what Arturas and Mark have done regarding character and putting players in a locker room who understand where this is all going. They want a team. And, players have healthy, huge egos. One of the elements why they're in the NBA. As kids, they wanted to compete.
Yeah.
And I get that. I think that's very, very good when you use it correctly. And we've seen players use it poorly, and some players, the light bulb goes on and says, hey, you know what? I'll do whatever it takes as long as the team wins. That's where this club is at right now. So a general manager, or in this case, Arturas, as the executive vice president, they wouldn't be doing their job if they didn't at least listen to find out what the buzz was going around the league. And if it makes sense, maybe they'll do something. Maybe they don't want to do anything, and that may make sense perfectly well. And so I think it's probably a wait and see approach, but I also think they want to see this club healthy.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we won't see Patrick Williams, but I think we want to see this club healthy and then come up for air and say, okay, where are we at? Because I think every team tries to improve. Every general manager wants to see his club get better. Every coach wants to have that one more piece. That's been the story from day one, 20 years ago, 40 years ago, in the NBA case, 75 years ago. I bet if you asked the Toronto Huskies head coach 75 years ago, hey, what would you like? He would give you, we need another guard, or hey, we need a big. And 75 years ago, a big was probably 6'6".
Right.
So I mean, so that's why I listen. I'll be able to understand either course of direction the Bulls go. If they don't make a move, I can live with that. If they make a move, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I trust this front office. I trust this front office implicitly because they get it. They understand. And does that mean they're going to hit 1,000 every year on draft picks or trades? No one does that.
Right.
No one does that, including the great Jerry West, one of the finest modern day GMs in the history. Jerry Krause, 6 NBA championships with the Bulls. Sometimes, more often than not, there are hits. Sometimes there are misses. We're all human. we evaluate players. We do things in life that we think are right, and the intentions are good. It just doesn't materialize. But I do like the way this club's been put together.
Yeah. I like that you've touched on team chemistry, because I think that that's so underrated in today's league, is the importance of team chemistry, because you can have all the talent in the world, but if that chemistry isn't there, you're not going to be successful. And
Correct.
I'll be honest, I did not expect the chemistry to start clicking right away with this team as it has. And it's just continued to progress as a result. But I want to ask, I have a feeling I know the answer to this, but what's been your favorite game that you've called so far this season?
Wow, my favorite game. Well, since we're taping this, just days after DeMar DeRozan's back-to-back threes,
Yep.
I would say just because it was an NBA record with DeMar with the left corner three at Washington, that's probably been because if you think about things, Indiana and Washington probably outplayed the Bulls in those two games.
Yeah.
I mean, those games, had DeRozan not hit those threes, Bulls would probably go into the Orlando game with a 2-game losing streak.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just being very upfront about this.
No, I completely agree with you.
Those shots, game-winning shots, people have to understand, unless you get an open look, relatively either a mid-range jumper or a clean look at a three, late game situations are usually, I don't want to say luck, because these players are too skilled. I believe in luck to begin with. But when, like with DeMar against Indiana, I don't know if he lost sight of how much time was on the clock, because he's dribbling over the midcourt line, and one eye is on the floor as a broadcaster. One eye is on the clock.
Yep.
Okay. And so I'm thinking, okay, like anytime you want to shoot.
Yeah, right. That's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, does he realize how much time is left on the clock? So,
And so, he got it off and it went down the pipe. The other game, we knew exactly, and he knew exactly what was going on. And it was a tough corner shot because he did a little spin on a turnaround and then he lined it up. But I would probably say, in answer to your question, the game at Washington.
I figured that was the case. I definitely listened to your call on that because I had to. You could tell the excitement, right? Both you and Adam Amin obviously are really, really great at sort of bringing about the emotion in those type of moments, which I absolutely love. I do want to touch briefly on the COVID outbreak. I know that's really that's wreaking havoc across the world. It's not just isolated to the NBA, but obviously your colleague, Bill Wennington, entered the health and safety protocol. Stacey King, the same thing. They've been able to recover and they're doing better now, fortunately. But what has it been like for you guys in the media, really needing to pivot and adjust on the fly when needed? Like, you had to go solo for a period of time without Bill as the color commentator. We had a brief moment where we thought Adam Amin was going to be going into the protocol, and you had Casey Johnson get a last minute call to do the play-by-play for TV. How has it been like for you guys to adapt and to adjust as needed?
Well, I mean, listen, we're professionals, and at the end of the day, we have a job to do.
Yeah.
And so, COVID has, over the last 2 years, has wreaked havoc on people's lives.
Yeah.
And, really, if you think about it, doing play-by-play because of a loss of a commentator is minuscule when it compares to what's happening in our society, with our schools, with our country being divided, vaxxed, unvaxxed. So when Bill went down, there was, I don't want to say there was the plan in place because you never plan it, but you say to yourself, okay, it's happened. Where do we go with this?
Yeah.
And so just to put things in perspective, so Bill and I were on a road trip, Cleveland and Miami, and Bill did color. He was the analyst for Adam in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
And I did solo in Cleveland.
Right.
So, but our game day routine is Bill and I usually have lunch. 90% of the time on the road, we have lunch. We'll take a walk. We'll have coffee, tea, whatever. And that was and we got tested daily with NBA rules and reg. So I'm Cleveland. I'm with him in Miami all through the week. 2 hours before our game in Miami, I get a call from Bill, and he said, "Hey, I've tested positive." And I said, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, I better call our trainer."
Yeah.
And so I called the trainer, and he says, "No, Chuck, you're good. You're negative." And I said, "Well, Bill is positive."
Right.
He goes, "Well, if you want to, let's take another test." Took another test, negative. I got tested every day for 10 days. Negative, 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 negative. So, during that span, we brought in Robbie Hummel, Will Perdue, and then I went solo for a game. So you just, you adjust and you make that conscious effort to make sure that you bring in Robbie and Will, just like Bill, because they've played the game. I have not. They have experienced what a player is going through during the 48-minute period. I have not. And it's my responsibility to make sure that they feel comfortable, that there is a connection, and that I can maximize their skill.
Yeah. I mean, you guys have done a great job, like you said, maintaining that professionalism, working on the fly. And I can only imagine the kind of the anxiety around all of this, given the fact that you're working in an indoor stadium. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've had 17 players, 17. We've had Billy Donovan, the head coach. Mm-hmm. We had an assistant coach.
Yeah.
We've had staff members. I mean, listen, I'm just you do your best. You got the mask. You avoid large crowds, and I've got the booster. And I'm not, honestly, I mean, I think it probably helps to a certain extent. To what degree? Where does that mean you're going to be in a bubble and you're not going to catch it? Of course not.
Sure. So I want to pivot a little bit. Let's talk about expectations for the rest of this season. Like I mentioned, the Bulls have exceeded expectations thus far, but there's still a lot of the season left to go, and the schedule is going to get harder in the coming weeks. How do you expect that this Bulls team will finish out the season? Do you think ultimately they'll finish sitting at the top of the East, and how far do you think they'll be able to make it into the playoffs?
Well, I think like anything else, you've got like 50 games to go, 45, 47 games. So I think it's probably too soon. Because like so many things can happen. You can have a player go down, you can have a player traded, you can have whatever. So, but I will say this, I think this club is in it for 21-22 season. And we need to focus on this season. And this season, I think, is going to be extremely competitive. I think we're looking at a situation where you've got Brooklyn, they're not going to go away. Philly's not going away. Milwaukee's not going away. Miami is not going away. And I really think that the Bulls are going to be right in the thick of it.
Do you think, would you consider the Bulls to be title contenders? I know at least at the beginning of the season, I would not have considered this team to be title contenders as good as I thought that they were.
I think that once the team is in the playoffs, all bets are off. and I mean that. Yeah. Regardless of you're the 8th seed, a play-in game team, wherever you finish, I think all bets are off.
Got it. Who do you have for tomorrow night's game? Bulls or Wizards? Who you got?
Well, of course, I never go against the Bulls. Come on, you know that.
I knew that, but I had to ask, right? All right, Chuck, one last question. I have to know, where do you learn those killer dance moves that you do after every Bulls win? Where'd you learn that?
Well, from no one, as you can tell. I am brutal. But I'll tell you how it happened. Real quick story.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
last year, we're not traveling. And, last year was hard on everyone. And so we're doing a road game from the studios downstairs at the United Center. Our engineer, Rich Wyatt, put together a fabulous, virtual type of in-game, big screen TVs. We're doing our radio off a monitor, the whole bit. And it was a game, and we were just exhausted. We were mentally fried from COVID, from doing road games in the studio. And the Bulls won a game, and I got up and I just started to dance, and unbeknownst to me, Rich Wyatt, our engineer, taped it.
Oh, no way.
He goes, "Let's put it on." And I said, "Hey,
why
let's
not?
rock." And then it just caught fire. I mean, it went like crazy. And so I decided, you know what, that was last year. Let's put it to bed. And we didn't do it for the first, maybe 15, 20 games this season. And we just started bringing it back because we started getting tweets saying, "Where's the dancing? Come on."
Yeah.
We missed it. So I said, why not? And you know what? It's not to disrespect any team, any player. We just want to have fun. We just want to have fun. And winning an NBA game is hard. It's hard to win an NBA game. And so when the Bulls win, it's time to celebrate. You can exhale. You can just say, "Woo, okay." And you do your little 10, 15-second dance, and you turn the page and move on.
Well, hopefully you'll be doing a lot more of those dances.
Yeah.
As Bulls fans, we certainly hope to see more.
I agree.
Chuck, once again, I really do appreciate you taking the time, as always. The fact that you take the time out of your day to meet with us fans says a lot about your character. We really do appreciate it. Keep up the great work.
Well, you do a fantastic job, and I mean that sincerely. But our Bulls fans, our Bulls Nation, they have been waiting for a season like this for a long, long time, probably early Derrick Rose. Because if you think about this, like after Jordan, I mean, there were some tough, lean years. And then the Bulls catch a break in the lottery. They draft the hometown kid who can flat out hoop. Yeah. And it looks like, over the next 7-8 years, it's going to be Derrick Rose and the Bulls against LeBron James in Miami every year for the Eastern Conference title. I mean, there was a separation. You had those two teams and then the rest. Okay. Maybe Boston, but for that period of time, from 2010 on, after Derrick's first 2 years, where he went 41-41, 41-41, then 62 wins his third year with Tibbs. And I'm thinking, this is set up. LeBron and Rose and like NBA Nation is going to love this. Bulls are going to love it. You got the rivals in the Miami Heat. You got the Bulls, coming in as the new kids on the block. It's Chicago, it's Miami, it's great. And then Rose goes down, and they went through different. The Bulls tried everything. They went through a youth movement. Then they said, we're going to do the veterans, and we're going to bring in Rondo. We're going to bring in Dwayne, and that didn't work. And so now, finally, I think what's been proven is that maybe you don't need an elite top 5 superstar. Stars help, big time players help, but I like the chemistry on this team. So thank you for the invite.
Of course, absolutely. Thanks for being on, Chuck. I really do appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.